Hi, this is Tamara at mooglyblog.com, and in this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to crochet the Floral Farmhouse Crochet Coasters that are a free pattern you'll find on mooglyblog.com. Please go to the link in the description where you will find both right and left-handed video tutorials, as well as a link to the written pattern so you can follow along. To make this pattern, you can see I've used lily, sugar, and cream. You'll also, of course, need your standard crochet supplies like scissors, stitch markers, a yarn needle, and we'll need a crochet hook. For this one, I used a USH 5mm crochet hook. This one is by Susan Bates. You only need 24 yards of lily, sugar, and cream to make each one of these coasters, which means that you can get 5 coasters out of one ball of standard lily, sugar, and cream. If it's one of the big cones, you'll get a whole lot more. The Floral Farmhouse Coasters include a couple of special stitches, a beginning puff decrease and a puff decrease that I'll be demonstrating here shortly. The written pattern also includes a chart if you prefer that type of instruction. So let's get started. We begin round 1 with a magic circle. To begin a magic circle, I like to go twice over the forefinger of my non-hook hand with the tail end of my yarn towards me. Then I insert my hook under both of those loops, and I want to grab the one that's furthest back towards my knuckle and pull it just under the edge of the first one. You can see how I've secured the tail here with my other fingers. Then I yarn over and pull a loop through to lock my magic circle together. Then I'm going to begin with a chainless starting double crochet, but you can use whichever kind of double crochet substitute you prefer. You could even just chain 3 if that's what you'd like to do. For me, I'm going to go ahead and pull my hook and loop up here to about the height of a double crochet. Then I yarn, or rather secure the loop at the top with my finger, and then yarn over with that loop itself. Then I insert my hook into the magic circle, making sure to go under both the solid circle there and that little tail end bit. Then I yarn over, pull that loop up through the circle, yarn over again, pull through that loop and behind the yarn over, and then finally yarn over and pull through those last 2 bits to finish the chainless starting double crochet. After that, I want to work 11 more double crochets into the ring. So really, what you want to do at home is make sure that you work 12 double crochets into the ring. Whatever that first one looks like is totally up to you. After I get that second one on there, I can usually go ahead and pull my finger right out. Every time we make one of these double crochets, we want to make sure that we go into that ring and that we trap that tail end, because we'll use that tail end to pull our magic circle closed. That's what makes it magic. So there's 3. I'm going to keep going until I have a total of 12 double crochets all worked into this ring. So now I've worked 12 double crochets, but it hasn't quite made a circle yet. Let's go ahead and pull on that tail end of the yarn. You can see it just closes it right up, but you do have to go over that tail with each stitch for it to work. When I go to weave in that end, I will make sure that I weave it back and forth under those stitches in several different directions to really help hold that magic circle closed. If you go in just one direction, it could open back up, so it's really important to reverse directions while you weave in that end. To finish up round 1 here, of course, we need to slip stitch to that first double crochet, or the top of the chain 3, or your stacked double crochet, or whatever it is you wanted to do for your first stitch. There we are, and that's the end of round 1. In round 2, we're doing some simple increases, 2 double crochets in each stitch. So again, for the first one, you can start with whatever double crochet substitute you like. I like to pull up my loop and do my chainless starting double crochet here. There we go, pull that loop through and finish that first stitch. Whatever sort of stitch you like to use for your first double crochet, we can go ahead and put a stitch marker in there if you like as well. Then we want to double crochet again right back in that same first stitch. There we go. And then we're going to do that in each remaining stitch around. Yarn over, go into the next stitch, pull up our loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. And make sure you do that again in each stitch. Since we had 12 double crochets in round 1, we'll have 24 double crochets at the end of round 2. So now we've worked 2 double crochets in each stitch. Make sure you count and you only have 24. We don't want to accidentally end up working into that slip stitch there. So to finish up round 2, we join to the top of that first stitch with a slip stitch. There we go. And now we're ready for round 3. In round 3, we're going to work our beginning puff decrease as well as the rest of our puff decreases. All of them are all in this one row. So we begin with our beginning puff decrease. To do that, first we start with a chain 1. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and get this stitch marker out of my way a little bit. We found our way back to it. For the beginning puff decrease, we yarn over and insert your hook into the top of that first stitch, that same one you joined to. Yarn over and pull up a loop. And we're going to go ahead and just pull that up to the same height as the top of that loop after your chain 1. We want these loops to be nice and even. Then we yarn over again and go right back into that same stitch. Yarn over and pull up a loop. At this point, you should have 5 loops on your hook. Your original active loop, and then the yarn over, and then go into the stitch and pull up a loop twice. Right there. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through just the first 4 of those loops. We don't want to pull through the active loop. So we want to kind of take our time and make sure. I've got 2 loops left there, so I need to pull through 1 more. There we go. We want to end with 2 loops left on our hook. Then we're going to skip the next stitch and continue in the stitch after that. We yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over, and pull up our loop. Again, we want to make sure every time we do this, we pull that up to the same height. Then yarn over again, go right back in that same stitch again, and yarn over and pull up our loop, and give that another tug to get it nice and even. Now we've got our active loop, the top of that first half, and 4 more loops on our hook. So now we're going to yarn over and pull through those first 4 loops. That leaves us 3 loops left on our hook. Then we yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops. And that finishes our beginning puff stitch decrease. We only have to do all that once. So if you'd like, you can go ahead and mark that very top loop there. That is the top of that singular stitch. There we go. It had a lot of pieces, but that was all really considered one stitch because it ended with that one little V there right on top. Then we chain 2, 1, 2, and go ahead and chain these a little bit loosely. Then we're going to start our repeat. We do a puff decrease followed by a chain 2, and that's our repeat all the way around. So what does a puff decrease look like now? We're going to start by working that first leg into the same stitch as the second half of the previous decrease. So that means we yarn over and we find that stitch that we worked the second half into with the previous stitch there. And we go back into that same stitch again. Now, there's a lot going on, so make sure you don't pull your yarn over this way. Pull it over to the side so we can get just up through that stitch and we don't catch a bunch of other stitches in it. Once again, we want to take our time and sort of pull that up to about the same height. Yarn over again, go back in that same stitch. And after you've pulled up your loop, make sure it's nice and tall again. And then we can see we've got our 5 loops here on our hook. We yarn over, pull through just those first 4, and stop with 2 loops on our hook. Then we yarn over, skip the next stitch, and come to the stitch after that. Insert our hook, and pull up our loop. Make sure again to pull that up to the same height as the rest of that row or round. Yarn over, go into that same stitch again, pull up our loop, and give it another tug to get it nice and straight. Yarn over, pull through those first 4 loops, 3 loops left on our hook. We yarn over and pull through all 3. Let's do that again together. And we can't forget, big part of our repeat, we need those chain 2s. There we go. We finish that up with a chain 2. Then we do it again, and we're going to continue doing that all the way around. Yarn over, go into that same stitch as the second half of the previous stitch. Yarn over, pull up our loop, pull it up nice and high. Yarn over, go into that same stitch. Yarn over and pull up our loop. Straighten out our loops if need be here. Yarn over, pull through those first 4. So now we've got 2 on our hook. We yarn over, skip the next stitch, go into the next stitch after that, yarn over and pull up our loop, pull it up nice and high, yarn over, go back in that same stitch again, pull up our loop nice and high, yarn over and pull through 4. That leaves 3 loops on our hook, yarn over and pull through all 3. And don't forget, of course, to chain 2. So we keep doing that all the way around, so I'll see you as we get to the end of round 3. As you can see, I've worked most of the way here around round 3, and I have finished 11 of my puff decreases, but that means there's one more to go. I wanted to go ahead and do that one together. Because for this one, again, we're going to start in the second half of the previous stitch. So let's do that together here. We yarn over, go right into that previous stitch there, pull up our loop, yarn over and do it again. There we go. Pull that up nice and high, yarn over and pull through 4. But now when we go to that second half, we want to make sure that we skip the final stitch. That right there is the slip stitch. So the second half is going to go in the same stitch as that first half of the first one. In other words, the very first stitch of the previous round, just to give us that great continuity. So we do the same thing. Pull up our loops twice there, yarn over and pull through the first 4, then yarn over and pull through 3 to finish the stitch. Then don't forget that chain 2. And then we're all set to join with a slip stitch to the top of that very first beginning puff decrease. So that is what it should look like at the end of round 3. In round 4, we're going to build up a nice solid border for our coaster. We start with a chain 1 and then a half double crochet in the top of that first puff decrease right there. There we go. If you'd like, you can go ahead and mark that one with a stitch marker as well. Go ahead and add that right there. There we go. And then we are going to work 3 half double crochets in the next chain 2 space. So we want to go ahead and make sure that when we have those puffs coming together, that's the top of our puff. Then we've got the chain 2 in between. So we work 3 half double crochets right in that chain 2 space in between those decreases. So there's 1 and 2 and 3. Then we do our repeat again, half double crochet in the next stitch and 3 half double crochets in that next chain 2 space. 1 and 2 and 3. Let's do one more repeat, half double crochet in the top of the next puff stitch or puff decrease, and then 3 half double crochets in that next chain 2 space. So you can see if you might have a little bit of cupping at the end of round 3, round 4 really helps straighten that right back out and give us this nice edge. So continue that way all the way around. And of course, we'll join with a slip stitch to that first half double crochet. So now I've worked 48 half double crochets all around round 4, and you can see our coaster is almost done. Round 5 is simply sort of a decorative round that I think gives it a really nice finished touch. Let's go ahead and get our stitch marker out of the way. And then we're simply going to loosely slip stitch in each stitch around. As I say, it just gives it a little bit of a nicer edge, I think, but it is, of course, totally optional. So we've got our first slip stitch to our first stitch there. So I'm going to go ahead and go to our next stitch. But we do want to loosely slip stitch. We don't want to pull this tight at all along the edges. So to do that, I'm going to go into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up my loop. But instead of just pulling it straight through, I'm going to give it a little pull up, make it a little bit looser and a little bit taller before I pull it through the other loop on my hook. Then I continue the same way all around. Insert your hook in the next stitch, pull up a loop, give it a little bit tug there, make it a little bit taller before we pull it through the other loop. As you do this, you want to make sure not to pull back on your working yarn to tighten up after every stitch, or you'll undo what you did by loosening up each one of those loops. Try, and once you've pulled that loop through, keep it the same size as you pull it through the previous loop. Do one more here. And if I pull up on that loop there, you can see how that adds just a little bit more of a finished edge to our coaster. Work that all the way around, and then you can finish up and join to the first one, and you'll be all set. And that's how to crochet the Floral Farmhouse Crochet Coasters. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.